record the labs. Guys, the plan that we have is that today we are gonna start our very first session for our lab, and I'm just gonna come up with the name with the lab. Probably I just call our lab session Sigma Lab, and I explained to you why I just called the lab which we're gonna have Sigma. But I should say today is gonna be our very first session. And the note which I have to make is that all these lab sessions is being recorded separately from the lab sessions that from the lecture sessions which we have on advanced functions, grade 12 then. Then at the end of the session, you should find two links for the video lectures. One link, it takes you to our normal sessions, the lectures, and the other link, it takes you to our lab sessions, which we run. You can just go back to check that anytime in the day. And even you can come back as a point of reference in future, because you are gonna do two very important projects for this term. You are gonna do two very interesting, I should say, interesting, significant, and important project this term, which essentially it involves the knowledge of the functions, and also it's going to be your very first exposure to this fast moving field of artificial intelligence. Then you are just going to use the functions that you learn in this course in order to make some predictive models based on the artificial intelligence, which is these days is a core crucial things in, I should say, in any part from technology to the health science and also education. Then I hope that you share the same interest with me, because you are gonna get your first exposure to artificial intelligence and machine learning in order to use the functions to make a predictive model. Something which predicts something which may happen in future. Now, I think it's going to be enough of talking. That was a kind of a quick introduction of what is going to be the purpose of our lab sessions. Then every day we run these lab sessions from 11 a.m. till 11:45. But remember, each day you have some stuff to do as a homework to work on it based on the lab sessions that we run. It's a very important thing, and please don't stay behind and don't take it, I should say, not with enough seriousness, because as I said, in order to graduate from this course, you are running two very interesting projects, which involves artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is the functions which you are learning on the advanced function 12. Okay, now, if you have no questions, I'm just going to go to the whiteboards which I have to go with the first tutorial of the course. Everyone is ready now? Okay, I just go to the whiteboard. And I'm going to do that here. It's going to be our session 1 in your, I should say, in our Sigma labs. And let's get started. Okay, now, before I start, I just want to start from the thing which you have learned about that in the past, and you're gonna see, oh my God, that thing which you learned in the past, that basic thing has a crucial and has a significant interpretation of what we are gonna do for the first model of our artificial intelligence. Then you see that the thing which you learn is gonna be very interesting. Okay, and now it is gonna represent, I should say, a y-axis, or I always prefer, instead of calling it the y-axis, I say that it's gonna be the f of x-axis, and it's gonna be our x-axis, because we see the projections of our x depending on the function which you decide to represent of the x along this axis. That's why I called it f of x. Okay. In the past, the thing that we saw was this, that we said that, and also you saw that on the course that we worked this week on our average rate of change and spontaneous rate of change. You saw that when we have 2 points, for example, the first point is represented by, let's say, xa, and the second point, which is represented by, let's say, f of xa, we can come with the second point. For example, we just choose this one. Which we call that xb. And I call this one f of xb. Based on the things also, you saw that in function 11 and advanced functions 12 on the first week, you saw that it is very easy now to find a straight line which connects these 2 points together. And as you saw that in this course, you saw that we call this line let me also show this one, that it showed that it's going to be the angle, for example, alpha with the parallel towards the x-axis. You saw from the things that we talked, we called that the secant line, and we saw that for this line, we have a very simple and easy way to demonstrate this line then. We said that the secant line, which we have, can be represented by a very easy mathematical formula, which we call that y should be equals to ax plus b. We saw that in this notation, a, which is essentially the tangent of the alpha, has a simple, I should say, way to make an inference about that. I need to find a value for it. We said that the a, it's essentially is f of xb minus f of xa divided by xb minus xa, xp minus xa. It was this one, it was our very easy interpretation about, I should say, the slope of the secant line, that we call that the secant line. And for this part, which is also incredibly important, as you will see that we run the math, we run our lab, this is the thing which we call that, and we denoted that as an intercept, which its interpretation is significant. And we said that the intercept is this: if you continue your line, this point, which it shows that the height or the distance from the origin, it represents your intercept, b. And the interpretation of that, we saw that before, for example, in the examples that we had before. We said that, for example, if f of x represents your income and x represents the hour that you work, it means that the intercept in that context, it takes the interpretation that even if you work 0 hours, you do not work at all, you are gonna get that much, for example, b, in terms of dollars, for example, as an income. You stay home, you relax, you have your coffee, you do nothing, but someone pays you. And that was, for example, in that context, that was the interpretation of the b as an intercept. These are all the things that we have learned, and we know that in order to find the intercept, when you find the a, because it's going to be your step number 1, then you can just plug any, I should say, value into your equation that you have seen. Then you say that, for example, if you choose point b, f of xb, it's equals to the a that you created here times, let's say, xb plus the intercept b, then it's very easy to find the value of the b because it is reduced only to one single linear equation. These are the things that we have done in the past. It's a review. And now, guys, imagine that I'm going to present to you another scenario that this one becomes a little bit more trickier. I have my axis here. I have my f of x as a function of the x, which x is denoted there. They can take any interpretation. X can be, let's say, for example, the number of the hours which you work, and f of x is going to be your income which you get from that work. Now, on the previous examples that I had here, you saw that we have 2 points that we tried to find, I should say, the connected line, and we called that the secant line. But now in the other example, which I'm just going to present it to you, imagine that. I'm just going to show the points, I should say, with the star. Imagine that instead of having 1 point, for example, each star represents 1 point. And now imagine that each point represents the hours that you work. For example, today you work this hour, tomorrow this hour, the day after tomorrow this hour. And now you see that you have A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 different points that you just want to come to find, for example, the best line which connects them together. But before that, let me take it as a very simpler terms. Let me go much simpler. I got a better idea. Imagine that instead of having 2 points which we had before, 1 point here, we had 1 point here, we had point A, and we had point B. It was in our previous example. Imagine that I added one other point. It's going to be, let's say, XA, XB, XC. It's going to be XA. It's going to be XB. And it's going to be XC, 3 points. And now, based on the things that you learned, can anybody tell me how can I, like the first example which we had 2 points, point A and B, and it was very easy to find the secant line in order to describe this. How can I just find a line which represents these 2 points? You may say, okay, I just come here and I say it's going to be this line. But the question is that the line that you picked, it doesn't involve this point, point B. Then you say, okay, I'm just going to go ahead with this line. Then again, I say to you, the line that you picked also again, it doesn't represent point C. Then you get confused. Then you say that whatever I do not know how to represent a line which that line represents points A, B, and C. Because if I connect these 2 points together, I do not have any idea what is the other point. You see, guys? And that's the problem. And now, what's going to be the solution? The solution here is that's the thing which when we just go to the R, we are just going to do that. The solution is this. We say that in order to find the line, we say, okay, if the line should be straight, for example, I mean that I'm interested to represent the line which represents point A and B, C, again as a linear one. I say Y should still equals to AX plus B. That's the linear line. The next week, and no, tomorrow also, when we talk about the polynomials of degree 2 and degree 3, which is going to be chapter 3, you see that sometimes you can represent the best line which connects these 2 points together as a polynomial. But today, we assume that we are going to come up with the line which represents these 3 points, but not as precise as the 2 points case which we had, but we say that, for example, imagine that the line which I require that to be as a straight line is going to be this line, for example. You say that the line which I'm interested to find to best fit them is going to be this line. Then I say, okay, no problem. I'm just going to call instead this line as a secant line. What was a secant line we learned? The secant line was this. With this, I should say, mathematical interpretation. But for this case, I assume that this one is the secant line, or sometimes in our lab sessions, we do not call the secant line. We prefer in our lab sessions to call this line as the best fit. We prefer not to call that secant line anymore. We love to call this best fit. That's why I call that surrounded with the heart sign. We prefer to call that the best fit. Okay. And now, still, I know that this line is represented. Let me get rid of this. Represented by the same equation, y equals to ax plus b. Still, we know that this is this case. The line is not connected between all individual points, but this is in a way close to each line. That the thing which I have as an assignment for you is that you please to do a research. I'm going to talk about that on tomorrow's lab. What is the definition of, what is the mathematical concepts of ordinary least squares, or OLS. I'm just going to talk about that tomorrow, but as an assignment that you have your brain warm up for that, I just want to ask you please to do a research on it. And tomorrow when we start our lab, I'm just going to talk about this, but remember, for tomorrow, you should do some kind of a research. And I tell you how to represent your work to me. Okay. Then we say that based on the concepts of the ordinary least squares, we assume that this line, which I call this the best fit, is the best line which represents all these points. Now, the problem which our lab session involves, the problem that we want to deal with this is this: what is the value of the A? What is the value of the B? We know the value of the A, this is called the slope. The value of the B, this is called the intercept. We saw so far in our sessions since a week ago, how can we just find the value of the A? We saw that the value of the A is essentially the slope of a tangent line that connects these 2 points together, all these points together. In order to find the A, you saw that even today and also last week, that there is a simple formula for it. And the formula for this, we saw that the formula for this, as you remember that, we said that it's going to be the d of f of x. It means the variation or changes of the functions with respect to the changes of the x. And we notice that also we can come and find this definition based on the things that we learned. I'm writing this because in the lab session, I want you to see the connections of the things that we made. We said that it's going to be f of x plus delta x minus f of x over delta x. And interestingly, we saw that we push delta x goes to 0 and we put it as a limit. And that's how we find the a. Or if you have 2 points with a straight line, that's how you find the a, by the average. This is the average one. That's the average rate of change that you learned. For 2 points, it's very easy. We talk about the average. But at this point, it becomes the instantaneous rate of change that you learned. And when we are done, the problem is that to find the intercept. We see that when we have many points, finding the slope and the intercept is not something easy at all. And it becomes the topic that we just want to just do that in our lab sessions. We do not want to do anymore the average rate of change or instantaneous rate of change with our hands on our paper, but we want to make the things very complex. We are going to have many points, but we cannot use our, should say, our paper and pen to just compute and make an inference about the slope and the intercepts. Now we just want to use a software in order to do that. And that's the thing which you just want to do right now. Okay, any questions, guys, so far?
No.
Nothing? Okay, now, please now, guys, go back to, please open your R Studio or R. We are gonna run our very first code in our Sigma Labs. Then when we are done, tomorrow we continue. I explain to you what is the ordinary least squares and we continue build up on the things. But this one was essentially the thing which we did it since a week ago. It's connecting now to the R environment. Please everyone open the R Studio or the R. I'm gonna open both. Okay, I'm gonna go to open both of the R and R Studio. Okay, I'm just gonna start with the R. Guys, everyone, listen this. If you have some problems, let me know. But I'm just gonna first of all show the window which I have for the R and tell you how to, you know how to install it. There is a video on the course. I told you how to install it. And anyone sees my R screen? Do you see that, guys, as shared? You see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Guys, when you have your R screen, the first thing which, if you are using R, I'm going to come back to show you how to just use the R squared. I'm just going to ask you, please open, I should say, go to the file. And when you are in the file, you see a drop-down menu opens. And drop-down menu opens, you have the second line. This is called new script. Please click on the new script. You see, it shows that a new screen is open. When this is like that, please go to the Windows tab. You see that you have many options. You have the cascade view. If you put the cascade, the windows, oh, I don't like it. I go back to the windows. I say that tile vertically. You can have this one. Or you go to the windows, tile horizontally. You have this one. So I prefer to have it vertically. I go to the windows vertically and the R is ready to just work with it. If you are using the R, the first thing we should do is this. For example, the first code. You're going to write, for example, you just go there. You see the window there is a red tick which is beeping, press 2 plus 2. And in order to run it, to execute it on the calculator, what do you have? You have the equal sign to press it. Please, in order to run it, go on the top menu. You can press 2 plus 2, press Control, then Enter, you get it 4. Let me put that vertically. Okay. And that's how you just run our first code then. You see that? I pressed 2 plus 2. In order to run it, I pressed Control and Enter at the same time. The people who are using R, is it fine so far?
Yes.
You were able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Now I'm just going to go back to do the same thing with the people who are using R Studio to have you get ready for the things. Then we just do, oh, my R Studio, it's, let me open a new one. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing with the R. I'm going to go to stop sharing with the R Studio, which I have. Okay. People who are using R Studio, who is using R Studio here? Who is using R? Who is using R Studio? People who are using R, please say your name.
I use R.
Laura using R.
Yes.
Who else? Thank you. Who is using R Studio? And he, Jasper, and Sylvia. Which one you are using, R or R Studio?
I use our studio.
Great, Sylvia, you are fine with it, huh? You were able to install it, huh? So glad to hear. How about Anki and Jasper? Okay, now I just continue. And guys, look at this. For when you're at the R Studio, the thing which you do, it's probably that's the window which you have. If you have changed the color. To change the color, I should you go to the tools, go to the global options, then go to the appearance, then you have the editor theme. You can change the colors. I like the dark one, then that's why you see it dark. But normally when you set it up, it's gonna be in white. Okay. Now, the thing which I do, the first thing which you do, please go to the file. You see a top menu there, up there. You go to a file and you just go to the first option. It says new file, and you have another drop-down menu which is called R script. When you do the R script, you see that the new window opens. The new window opens, it's a new script for you. And also on the right side, you can have the option to maximize this one, and you have, I should say, your global environment there. On the menu down here, you see that you have some tabs, which is gonna be files, plots, packages, help, and viewer. We are gonna talk about these ones. during the codings which we do, but as far as you are here, it's gonna be fine. Okay, the people, Laura and everyone who are using R and R Studio, there is one simple easy thing, which I said that also on the course channel then I said that in order to just write any comments, you put the hashtag sign. Hashtag sign. It's on the number 3 on your keyboard. You press shift, press that, and now you can just write your codes. You can write, for example, your code, which you say that it's going to be my first R code. Then I just press enter, come to the next line. And if you are doing the R, it's gonna be the same thing. You just press hashtag and write your comment. I can just write, for example, first R code by Omid. For example, you can just write your name or any descriptions that you want. Okay, I'm just gonna come here. For example, as I did with Laura on the R, I say 2 plus, for example, 3. In order to run my code in the R Studio, I have this option. I can just either, when the line, the cursor of the mouse is next to that line, I press Control, and while keeping pressing, I should say, Control, press Enter, you see people who are using the R Studio, you see that 2 plus 3, it shows 5 at the bottom of your console. That's the window, the lower part. You see that, Sylvia? Were you able to do that?
I'm not sure.
Huh? Do you see, for example, the answer here? At the lower left window. You see the answer there? And also, I'm just gonna stop screen sharing and I just go to the R, show the same thing with the things which I did with the R for the people who are using the R. That's gonna be the same story. The same story is this. For example, I'm just gonna write any code here, and I'm just gonna write, for example, what? I'm just gonna write, let's say, for example, another number. For example, I'm just gonna write print, for example, 3 plus 4. Control Enter. And I have 7 there. Do you see that, Laura?
Yes.
Or I can write, for example, 6 times 7. I press Control, then Enter. I get the answer 42. And let me put the toolbar there. Okay. And guys, please, and Laura, please you do something. Go also to the Windows. Windows tab, you see the cascade, tile horizontally, tile vertically, arrange icons. You have one R console, and you have, for example, I should say, the name of the other window, which you have it vertically there. You see that?
Yes.
Click on the name of the tab which you have there. You have untitled, you have untitled here. Please check that one, that you have a tick next to that.
Okay.
When you do that, when you write a code, for example, I write 7 times 6 times, I should say, 3 or plus 3. That's gonna be my code. In order to run it, Laura, and the people who are using the R, please let me go to the window. I have two untitled. Let me do that here. Let me 3 plus 4. Okay. Oh, this is gonna work like that. Laura, please come to the untitled panel which you have. That's the thing that's gonna be your script. That's where you write your codes. Huh? It is called untitled, and you see the windows. This is for the untitled because you do not have any name attached to that. Okay. I'm gonna write my first code, for example, 6 plus 5. And in order to run it, I'm gonna see the results at the console. I come here, you see this line there?
Yes.
Run line or selection. If I press it, I see the result there. Do you see 11 there?
Yes.
Now, I'm gonna save my work. It's gonna be the preliminary, then tomorrow we do our the codes. In order to save your work, please, and also people who are using the R Studio, and Sylvia, Anki, and Jasper, that's the same thing for you guys. Please, you do the same thing. Please, everybody goes to the file. Click on the file, and just you see a drop-down menu which opens. You see that the new script. Open a script, save, and save as. Everyone sees that option? Yes?
Yes.
When you see that option, click Save As. It's the same thing on R or R Studio. When you found it, when you open that, you see a window opens like this. It's written at the top, Save Script As. You see it? Then it depends on you. Choose anywhere you want. You are gonna store your file somewhere that in future you can go back to it and use it. I'm just gonna go, for example, to my desktop. For example, you can do it on your documents, you can do it anywhere you want. I'm gonna create a new folder, and I press new folder, and I'm just gonna put what? I'm just gonna type it, my code. It's gonna be the name of the folder, and I press enter. Then on my desktop, I created a new folder. You can choose any name you want. Then I just go to that folder. You see, guys, the bottom here, file name, at the very bottom. I'm just gonna choose the name of my file. Again, I'm just gonna choose this code, my code, my underscore code. You can choose your name, Omid, for example. Choose any name that you just want to go back to it and find it. It becomes a kind of an address for you. Then I'm just gonna say set up. Set up means the thing which we did. Set up, we just initiated our first code. And I'm just gonna press .r. It's crucial to put the R. Or if you do not put the R, remember, save as type, it should be R file. Then the file name, I put it as a setup. Then it should be a kind of a R file. Always, it's crucial. Make sure that you save it when this is the R file. Everyone is okay so far?
Yes.
Then I'm just gonna go ahead and press save. If you save it, you come over here on your console. R Studio is the same thing. You see that this is not written at the very top. the menu on the left, it is not untitled anymore. It shows you the address, which shows that on your desktop, for example, that's me. I don't know for you what is that. On your desktop, there is my codes. It's the folder which I created, and that's gonna be the setup.r. That's the name of the file. And if I go to the Windows, I see that this name is gonna be always ticked next to that. You see that? Laura, is it fine for you?
Yes.
You're up to this point?
Yes.
Awesome. For example, any other thing which you want to do, you write, for example, print is one of the easiest code you do. You write print on quotation mark, you say my name is Omid. I put the quotation mark, close the parenthesis. It's a line, it's the simplest line of code. I want to run it. How to run it? I just go to this one. I can either press Control Enter, or I can come here to press this line, run line. You see that button, Laura?
Yes.
You press it, you see I have it here. You see my name is Omid. It was my first line. I'm gonna go back to our studio in 2 minutes. We do the same thing in the R studio. The people who use R studio, Sylvia, Anki, and Jasper, you were able to save your file, correct? It was the same procedure. You go to the file, you just go to the save as. I press on it, I click on it, I choose the folder which I want. For example, the same desktop. I click on it, I write my file, for example, setup 2, because I have set up before, and if I write the same thing, it doesn't accept it. I press setup. Sylvia, are you up to date? Did you do the same thing? But here with the R Studio, you may find it a little bit trickier. You see that you have the save as types, you have all files. Then you cannot save it like that. You have to just save it as setup.r. Remember, for people who use this step, R Studio, when you save your file, you always have to make sure that you, at the end of when you choose your file name, you do .r, because you're working with the R. In the R Studio, save your file as always like that, .r. And I'm gonna save it. Everyone is okay so far? Then I'm gonna come here to, let's say, this file, which is called setup.r. Write my first, I should say, code. I'm gonna write print. I put the quotation mark. I say, my name is Omid. You put the quotation mark because when you write a sentence in the R, you put the quotation mark always. You are gonna learn this stuff very soon then. In order to run it, I either come here to press this button, which is run, or press Control Enter. I press run. And you see that the code which is run, you see that, guys, here at the window, which is at the lower left of my window, you see that it's written here, my name is Omid. This is the very first basic code that we run it. And when you initially, that's the same thing for people who use R and R Studio. Guys, that's the final thing to finish the session today, is that whenever you work on your file, when you save your file for the first time, always go back to the file, and instead of save as it, press save. It makes sure that whatever you do, it's gradually saved and you do not lose your information. That was essentially our very first code in R and R Studio. And as long as our time is up, then uh, I'm just gonna stop sharing and I just come to just talk 1 minute, then we go there. Guys, today it was our very first session in our lab. We were able before to install and now we were able to set up our environment to run our very first code, which was printing our names and save it in a folder. Tomorrow, we move on for the concept which is called regression analysis, which we look at those 2 points, we try to find the instantaneous average rate of change and the slope of our model by the R, which is only one line to write. You see how life is going to be easy. But before that, I'm just going to save a file into the course website, which is the Schoology, which is a PDF, a document, the initial lessons to work with the R. It's very easy. Please check that folder. By 1 p.m. today, it's a new folder. I call that R lessons. Okay, that's the new folder. Click on it and do some practice coding in the R. That's a very easy document to use. For example, how to compute, how to do the math, those stuff. Do as much as you can. Then tomorrow we continue with more interesting stuff then. Okay,
Okay.
awesome. Tomorrow we do more interesting stuff. Today it was our initial day in the lab. It was a kind of a warm up to see how to start a file, how to save a file, and how to write our names there. Tomorrow it gets more interesting. But please remember, do the practice. When I post that file on the R, on the Schoology website, I'm going to send a notification that you know what is the folder and what you need to do there. Okay. Any questions, guys?
No.
No?
No
If
question,
you have
sir.
no questions, thanks. Keep practicing with the R. For tomorrow, it makes you to familiarize yourself with the program that tomorrow you have some good ideas how to work with the data. Then if you have no questions, guys, thank you for a great today. You had a great session and have a nice day. See you all tomorrow then. Have a nice day, everyone.
See you.
See you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
See you.
Bye.
Bye bye.